Member for Newland.
Thank you, Mr Acting Speaker. Today I would like to take the opportunity to acknowledge my guest, John Wilson, who is a local railway historian, author and, most importantly, a Banksia Park resident. And I would also like to acknowledge his wife, Pat, who's unwell and couldn't join us here today. John and his wife are responsible for a large number of books, but today I'd like to focus on the subject of many of them, and that is Railway Bob, also known as Tarawi Bob, very much part of railway folklore and history here in South Australia and beyond. And I do have a number of the Railway Bob books with me here in the chamber as well. Bob, put simply, was a remarkable dog that lived on the railways here in South Australia in the late 1800s, and he is remembered across our state. His collar is currently on display in the National Railway Museum, and we were joined by Bob Sampson from the Railway Museum over lunch as well. There is a statue of Bob in Peterborough, and there is a trail with facts about Bob in Tarawi, which was a place that was very much home to many of Bob's adventures. In John's book, Bob's Railway, the first book about Bob, which was subtitled Turbulent Political Times in South Australia and a Remarkable Railroading Dog, Pat and John used over 100 contemporary newspaper reports and archive items to commemorate not only the stories of Bob, but the political events of the time. And on page 27 of the book, there is a wonderful poem about a Member of Parliament. And I assured John I would share with the House this poem for the record, written by a fictional character named Alfie. The poem goes like this. When a Member of Parliament encounters a hound, he makes no bold promises nor lies expound, for his want from the humans is purely their mark, and once been to the ballot, they are kept in the dark. I oft ponder the world would be much better now if the dogs were in Parliament and the toffs had to bow. But the dogs are an awful lot smarter, I sense, their existence not burdened by pounds, shillings and pence. But the house full of canines would be quite a noise, so we're stuck with a band of those silly old boys. And I will add for the record, of course, we're also stuck with some silly old girls as well, perhaps, in the Parliament, and young girls as well today as well. I would like to acknowledge the fictional Alfie for the House and the very real John Wilson, who's become a dear friend of mine, a wordsmith extraordinaire, and who's always ready to give me a bit of a laugh and a chat and brighten my day coming into the office to visit. On the back of the book, you can see Bob's World from 1888, and I've mentioned some of the towns that are mentioned in Bob's story, but there are a large number of regional towns that make up a part of Bob's journey. Murray Bridge, of course, home to the Overland, which our government is happy to be supporting. I joined John and a handmade Railway Bob on the Overland in January 2022 to celebrate its 135th birthday, and we propped up the handmade Bob, I believe it's paper mache, and we put him in the front of the carriage and took some photos, which are also in some of the books. There is mention of Riverton, which was halfway to Bob's ultimate destination of Tarawi and the location that they stopped for refreshments. Macclesfield, of course, in the Adelaide Hills. Bob was owned, though I would argue he was very much a free dog and not owned by anyone specifically, by the publican of the Mackie pub, one of the best places in South Australia for a schnitzel to this day. Petersburg, Corn, Port Pirie, Moonta, Strathalbyn, Islington, Dry Creek. My favourite place, of course, is called Cold and Wet, which was the name of the former name of the station at Canalpin. He also goes into Serviceton, which is a key part of the story, and of course, Tarawi. Bob is very much the definition of an ambassador for South Australia, and I often think he'd be a great mascot accompanied by I've Been Everywhere Man, because Bob, of course, for 16 or 17 years, his time in South Australia, visited everywhere across our great state. And John and Pat are very much keen to see Bob the Railway Dog's story make it into a film and have been sending submissions back and forth to make that a reality. I do want to wish them all the best in their endeavour. I see Bob as a very worthy ambassador for our great state, particularly regional South Australia, and will continue to follow the adventures of John, Pat Wilson and Railway Bob. Thank you.